Ilara wiped her hands on her apron as rain pounded the roof of the small village hospital. The storm had started suddenly, turning the forest paths into rivers of mud. Most of the villagers had already taken shelter in their homes, but the hospital remained open. She had just finished tending to a sick child when a low rumble shook the walls. At first she thought it was thunder, but the tremor was too strong and too close. The windows rattled violently and the lights flickered. A deafening crash followed, like a mountain falling into the clearing behind the hospital. Ilara's heart raced. She dropped the child's blanket and ran outside, her boots sinking into the wet mud. The forest edge was shrouded in mist, but through it she could see a massive shape struggling on the ground. A dragon. Its scales gleamed even in the dim storm light, dark and shining like polished stone. One of its enormous wings was bent at a strange angle, and it let out a painful roar that shook her bones. Ilara froze for a moment. Every story she had ever heard about dragons told of their ferocity, their cruelty, and their sharp, deadly teeth. But this creature did not seem angry at her. It was in pain. Her hands itched to help. She swallowed her fear and stepped closer. "I'm not going to hurt you," she said softly. "I just want to help." The dragon's golden eyes narrowed, watching her carefully. She noticed the slow rise and fall of its chest, the deep rasping of its breaths. It was alive but barely. She ran back to the hospital and grabbed bandages, herbal poultices, and a bucket of warm water. Returning to the dragon, she set her supplies down and began her work. She started with the wing, gently feeling the bones to check for breaks. The dragon hissed, but she held firm, murmuring calming words. "It will be okay. I can help you. Just let me." Her hands were small compared to the dragon's massive form, yet she worked with careful precision. She wrapped the wing in layers of cloth and applied the cooling herbal paste. The dragon's roars grew quieter as the minutes passed. The villagers who had gathered at a safe distance gasped and whispered among themselves. Some wanted to run and hide, afraid the dragon might attack at any moment. Others watched in awe as a human worked so boldly. One man muttered, "She is crazy. No human can face a dragon like that." Ilara ignored them. She had never been afraid of hard work, and fear was nothing compared to helping a living being in need. Hours passed and the storm began to weaken. Lightning still flashed across the sky, but the rain slowed to a steady drizzle. The dragon lay on its side, breathing more steadily. Ilara removed her wet hair from her face and smiled faintly. "You're going to be all right," she whispered. She did not know the dragon understood her words, but it seemed to listen. Its head tilted slightly as if studying her. That night she stayed by the dragon's side. She brought more water and fed it small cuts of meat from the village supplies. Each time it tried to move and wince in pain, she steadied it, keeping its fear under control. She noticed how intelligent its eyes were, almost like a human's but wiser. It was observing her, judging her. She wondered briefly why it had come to the village. Dragons did not travel lightly. They had their own kingdoms, hidden in the mountains and forests where humans could not reach. When the village blacksmith, Joran, finally arrived with a lantern, he saw the scene and froze. "By the gods. Ilara, what are you doing?" he whispered. Ilara did not look up. "Saving it," she replied simply. "It needs help. Someone has to do this." He shook his head but stayed to watch, helping carry supplies. Even from a distance, the dragon's enormous form was terrifying, yet something about Ilara's courage seemed to calm it. Through the night, Ilara learned more about the dragon by observing its reactions. It flinched when she touched certain areas, and it relaxed when she spoke softly. She realized that she was not just treating an injury, she was building trust. The dragon did not trust easily, and she knew that every touch, every calm word mattered. She cleaned its wounds, wrapped bandages, and checked for swelling. Occasionally it would hiss or snap its tail dangerously close, but she remained steady. Each moment of calm reinforced her connection with the creature. By dawn, the storm had ended completely. Mist hung low over the fields, and the first rays of sunlight glimmered on the dragon's scales. Its breathing was strong now, and it lifted its head to look directly at her. Ilara felt a strange sense of recognition in those eyes, as though the dragon knew her in a way no human could understand. She smiled tiredly. "You're going to make it," she said softly. "We'll get you back to health." No one in the village had ever seen anything like this before. A human, small and seemingly fragile, had faced a dragon in pain and tended to it with nothing but courage, kindness, and skill. The villagers began to understand something important that night. Bravery was not about size or strength, and compassion could bridge even the widest gaps between worlds. And somewhere deep in the dragon's mind, a thought took root. This human was different. worth remembering, worth trusting. Ilara had no idea who she had really saved, but the bond forming between them would change not only her life, but the fate of her village and perhaps even the hidden dragon kingdoms. Ilara finally sat back on a fallen log, exhausted but unafraid. She watched the dragon as it rested, one massive wing carefully supported by her bandages. She whispered one last time, "Sleep now. Tomorrow we begin again." The dragon blinked slowly, almost like it was agreeing, and the first real connection between human and dragon was quietly forged. Ilara woke to the soft glow of morning sunlight filtering through the forest mist. The dragon lay nearby, its massive body curled around a patch of mud and leaves. Its golden eyes followed her every move, alert but calm. Last night had been exhausting, yet a strange sense of peace settled over her. For the first time she realized the creature was not just alive, he seemed to trust her. She carefully stepped forward, carrying a bucket of fresh water and a small bundle of meat. The dragon lifted his head, tilting it as if testing her intentions. Ilara knelt a few feet away and spoke in her calmest voice. "Good morning. I have food and water. You need both to heal." The dragon's tail twitched and after a moment he lowered his head slightly, signaling acceptance. Ilara's heart lifted. Small gestures mattered, she realized, and patience was as important as skill. Over the next days she continued her care. She cleaned his wounds, checked his broken wing, and applied poultices that soothed the bruised muscles. Each movement had to be careful. One wrong motion could provoke the dragon's powerful reflexes. At first, he flinched or hissed at every touch, but slowly he began to allow her closer. Ilara noticed he watched her constantly, studying her expressions, her hands, her voice. Unlike humans who often spoke without thinking, he seemed to measure every word and gesture. One afternoon, while she adjusted a bandage, a sudden rustling came from the forest. Wolves, or maybe something larger, emerged, their eyes glinting in the sunlight. Ilara froze, heart racing. The dragon rose to his full height, wings stretching, ready to fight. But before he could roar, she stepped forward and raised a hand. "Wait," she shouted. "We can handle this together." The wolves paused, confused by the human's boldness. The dragon hesitated as well, as though he understood her words. Ilara quickly grabbed a handful of stones and threw them near the predators, creating noise and distraction. She shouted, stomped, and waved her arms. The dragon, watching her courage, mirrored her movements with a powerful stomp of his clawed foot. The wolves scattered, confused and frightened by the combined force. After the threat passed, the dragon lowered his head. Ilara approached cautiously, speaking softly. "You see? We can work together. I will not hurt you and you will protect me when I need it." The dragon tilted his massive head and let out a low rumble. It was not a roar, not a threat, but a sound of acknowledgement. Ilara realized that trust was growing between them, built not only on care, but also on courage and respect. Ilara began to notice other signs of intelligence in the dragon. He remembered where she kept the supplies, and he seemed to anticipate her movements. Sometimes, he would nudge her gently when she bent to pick up a dropped tool. At night, he would lower his massive body near her bedroll, letting her feel safe beside him. The villagers remained wary, watching from a distance, whispering about the strange bond forming between human and dragon. Some thought she had gone mad, but others could not deny the courage and patience she displayed. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the forest canopy, Ilara suggested taking a short walk. "I want you to stretch your wings." "Just a little," she said. The dragon looked hesitant, but he allowed her to help him rise. His movements were slow, careful, and unsteady, yet Ilara encouraged him with gentle words. Step by step he shifted, testing his strength. When he lifted one wing fully, Ilara clapped quietly and smiled. The dragon rumbled deeply, a sound that seemed almost like a laugh. The next day she decided to take another risk. She climbed carefully onto the dragon's back, holding on tightly as he rose slowly. At first he wobbled, unsure of her weight, but gradually he found balance. The villagers gasped when they saw her riding on the dragon. Ilara's heart pounded with excitement and fear, but more than that she felt a connection she had never known before. The dragon was no longer just a patient. He was a companion, a creature who trusted her enough to share his strength. As days turned into a week, the bond between them deepened. The dragon, who had once been a terrifying figure of power, now responded to her gestures and words. He allowed her to feed him directly from her hands and followed her instructions when she guided his movements. Ilara realized that fear alone could not forge this bond. Only mutual respect and understanding could. The dragon began to depend on her as much as she depended on him. One night, while they rested near the river, Elara spoke softly. I don't know where you came from or why you were hurt. But I know you are more than just a dragon. You are smart, strong, and brave. And I think, you are lonely too. The dragon lowered his head close to hers, golden eyes glowing with quiet acknowledgement. He had been watching humans all his life, judging them, yet he had never found one like her. She was fearless, patient, and compassionate, qualities rare even among dragons. Elara did not know the truth. The dragon was not just any dragon. He was the emperor of a hidden dragon empire, a ruler of thousands of dragons who had never shown weakness to anyone. Yet here, with a human nurse, he had revealed vulnerability and allowed trust. And in return, Elara saw that even the mightiest creature could value kindness, courage, and the careful hand of a healer. By the end of the week, the dragon's wing had improved significantly. He could flap it without pain, though he still moved cautiously. Elara knew that soon he would fly again, possibly leaving the village behind. She felt a mixture of pride and worry. He had trusted her and she had kept him safe, but the world beyond the forest was dangerous. She wondered if their bond could survive the challenges to come. As she sat beside him one evening watching the sun sink below the trees, Elara whispered, "We have learned to trust each other. That is something no one can take away." The dragon lowered his massive head onto the ground, nearly touching her shoulder, and rumbled in agreement. It was the sound of understanding, a promise between human and dragon that fear had been conquered, and trust had grown in its place. For the first time, Elara felt that the impossible was possible. A human could heal a dragon, and a dragon could trust a human. The bond they had formed was fragile yet strong, delicate yet unbreakable. And neither of them knew that their partnership would soon be tested by forces far beyond the forest, forces that would challenge their courage, their trust, and the very way humans and dragons saw each other. Morning came with a pale sky and cool wind moving through the trees. Elara stood near the river, washing her hands, while the dragon rested on the flat stones nearby. His wing looked stronger now. The swelling had gone down and the torn skin had begun to close. He could lift the wing fully, though he still moved with care. Elara watched closely, her eyes trained to notice small signs of pain. She nodded to herself. He was healing well. The dragon watched her too. He had been many things in his long life. A ruler. A judge. A force that decided the fate of nations. Yet here, beside a small river and a human village, he felt something unfamiliar. Come. Safety. He had hidden his true power, pulling it deep inside himself after the fall. If others sensed who he was, they would come. Enemies. Rivals. Dragons who wanted his throne. He could not allow that. Not yet. Elara returned with fresh cloth and herbs. I want to try something today, she said gently. Just a short flight. Very slow. Only if you feel ready. The dragon looked toward the open sky. His muscles tightened, then relaxed. He lowered his head once. Agreement. They moved to the edge of a wide clearing. Elara checked the wing again, tightening the support wrap in 2 places. If it hurts, we stop, she said. The dragon huffed softly. He bent low, wings spreading wide. Wind rushed over the grass as he pushed upward. For a moment, Elara feared he would fall again. But he did not. He rose slowly, carefully, just above the trees. Elara held on as they lifted. Her breath caught in her chest. The village shrank below them. The forest spread out like a green sea. She felt fear, yes, but also wonder. The dragon flew in a slow circle, steady and controlled. When he landed again, Elara laughed without meaning to. You did it, she said. You really did it. The dragon lowered his head, eyes bright. Pride moved through him, quiet but deep. Not pride in power, but pride in healing. In trust. That night, far away beyond the mountains, something stirred. In a great stone hall filled with firelight, elder dragons argued in low, dangerous voices. The emperor's presence was missing. His energy, once strong and constant, had faded. Scouts had searched the skies for days. Now at last they felt a faint signal. Weak but real. He was alive. And not alone. Back in the village, Elara noticed changes. The dragon became more alert. He spent more time watching the sky, less time resting. Sometimes she caught him tracing symbols in the dirt with a claw. Old shapes. Marks that felt heavy with meaning. Are those words? She asked one evening. The dragon paused, then wiped the lines away with his tail. He did not answer. Elara felt a strange distance growing. Not fear but weight. Like he was carrying something too large to share. Still, he remained gentle with her. When she tripped on a root, his wing moved without thought, steadying her. When she slept, he positioned himself between her and the forest. Whatever he was hiding, his care for her was real. One afternoon, a merchant caravan passed near the village. They stopped when they saw the dragon resting in the clearing. Panic spread quickly. Men shouted. Horses screamed. Ilara ran forward, placing herself between the dragon and the armed guards. "He will not hurt you," she said firmly. "He is injured. He is under my care." The guards hesitated. The dragon could feel their fear, sharp and loud. If he revealed himself fully now, they would kneel. Or run. Or die. He pulled his power tighter, hiding it deeper. He lowered his head and stayed still. The caravan left soon after, shaken but alive. Ilara turned to the dragon, her hands trembling. "I know you could have destroyed them," she said quietly. "But you didn't. Thank you." The dragon met her eyes. In that moment he wanted to tell her everything. Who he was. What he ruled. Why the sky itself once bowed when he flew. But he stayed silent. That night he dreamed of fire and crowns. Of kneeling dragons and burning cities. He woke with a start, a low growl escaping his throat. Ilara stirred and sat up. "It's okay," she whispered. "You're safe." Her hand rested on his scales, warm and steady. The dragon closed his eyes. For the first time in centuries, an emperor let himself rest under another's protection. The next day the sky darkened without clouds. A pressure filled the air. Ilara felt it in her chest like the world was holding its breath. The dragon knew the feeling well. Others were near. Powerful ones. Searching. He stood and moved to the edge of the clearing, staring toward the mountains. Ilara followed. "What is it?" she asked. He turned to her slowly. His eyes burned brighter than she had ever seen. For just a second the weight of him slipped free. Ilara felt it then. Not fear but awe. This was no ordinary dragon. "You're important," she said softly. The dragon did not deny it. He stepped closer and lowered his head until it touched the ground in front of her. It was a gesture few had ever seen. Respect. Gratitude. A promise. Ilara did not fully understand, but she placed her hand between his eyes. "Whatever you are," she said, "you're still the one I helped. And I won't turn away now." Far away wings beat through the sky. The hidden emperor had been found. The sky changed before anyone saw the shapes within it. Birds fled the forest in screaming flocks, and the air grew heavy, pressing down on the village like an unseen weight. Ilara felt it while gathering water. Her hands froze mid-motion. The dragon beside her lifted his head sharply, eyes blazing. He knew this feeling well. It was not nature. It was power. A deep roar rolled across the land, not from him but from above. Shadows passed over the fields. One shadow became 3, then 5. Massive wings cut through the clouds as other dragons descended from the sky. Their scales shone in harsh colors, marked with old battle scars and symbols of rank. They did not hide their power. They wanted to be seen. Villagers screamed and ran. Bells rang in panic. Ilara stood still, heart pounding, as the dragons landed at the edge of the clearing. The ground cracked under their weight. One dragon stepped forward, taller than the others, his horns long and sharp. His eyes locked onto Ilara's dragon. "Emperor," the dragon said, his voice echoing like thunder. "Your hiding ends today." Ilara turned slowly. "Emperor?" she whispered. Her dragon moved in front of her without thinking. His wings spread wide, blocking her view of the threat. He stood taller now, no longer holding his power back. The air around him seemed to bend. The rival dragons lowered their heads slightly, not in fear but in recognition. "You were wounded," the horned dragon continued. "Weak. Unfit to rule. We came to claim what you abandoned." "I abandoned nothing," the emperor replied calmly. "I fell. And I was helped." The rival dragon laughed, a harsh, cruel sound. "By a human?" His eyes shifted to Ilara. "A fragile thing. You shamed the throne." Ilara felt fear claw at her chest, but she stepped forward anyway. "He was hurt," she said. "I helped him because it was right. That does not make him weak." The dragons stared at her, stunned by her courage. One of them snarled. "She speaks without permission." The emperor's voice dropped, dangerous and controlled. "She speaks because I allow it." The rival dragons shifted uneasily. Still, the horned leader raised his head. "Step aside, human. This is dragon law." Ilara shook her head. "You came to a village full of people who did nothing to you. If you fight here, you will hurt many who cannot defend themselves." The rival dragon glanced at the village with clear disregard. "That is not our concern." Before the emperor could respond, the villagers began to act. They did not attack. They prepared. Men dragged carts to block paths. Others lit signal fires. Ropes were pulled tight between trees. Traps, once meant for large animals, were quickly set. They had learned from Alara. Fear did not mean helplessness. The Emperor noticed. His eyes widened slightly. Humans, small, soft, yet working together with speed and purpose. The rival dragons attacked. Fire struck the ground where Alara had stood seconds before. She rolled away, coughing as heat scorched the air. The Emperor roared and met the attack head-on, slamming into the largest rival. The clash shook the earth. Wings tore through trees. Fire and wind collided. One rival dragon dove toward the village, jaws open. A rope snapped tight around its neck, pulled by 10 villagers working together. The dragon crashed into the mud, stunned. Another dragon charged, only to fall into a pit lined with thick logs and spikes meant to trap, not kill. The Emperor fought with skill, but he was still healing. Blood ran between his scales. He staggered once, nearly falling. Alara saw it and ran toward him, ignoring the danger. "Hold on," she shouted. "You can't do this alone." He heard her. More than that, he trusted her. "Now," she yelled to the villagers. They moved as one. Smoke bombs rolled across the clearing, blinding the rival dragons. Bells rang, disorienting them. Fires were lit in patterns, forcing the attackers to separate. It was chaos, but controlled chaos. The Emperor adapted. He stopped fighting like a ruler and started fighting like a human ally. He used the smoke. He waited for signals. When Alara raised her arm, he struck. When she dropped it, he pulled back. The horned dragon roared in frustration. "This is madness." "No," the Emperor said, slamming him into the ground. "This is unity." With a final blow, the rival leader collapsed. The remaining dragons hesitated, seeing their traps failed and their leader defeated. One by one they took to the sky, retreating into the clouds. Silence followed. Broken trees smoldered. The ground was torn, but the village still stood. Alara rushed to the Emperor's side. "You're bleeding," she said, already pulling out cloth. He lowered himself so she could reach. "I will heal," he said. "Because of you." The villagers emerged slowly, staring in disbelief. They had stood against dragons and lived. Alara looked up at the Emperor, her voice shaking. "They called you Emperor. Is it true?" He met her gaze. This time he did not hide. "Yes." The words settled heavily between them. She took a deep breath. "Then they will come again." "Yes," he agreed. "And next time the whole world may watch." Alara tightened the bandage and looked toward the sky. Fear still lived in her chest, but something stronger stood beside it now. Resolve. The threat had arrived. And it had been answered. The village lay quiet after the battle. Smoke drifted from broken trees, and the ground was scarred from dragon claws and fire. Villagers moved carefully, helping each other, their eyes still wide with awe. The humans had survived an attack from dragons, led by the one they had never known was the Emperor. Alara moved slowly among them, carrying water for the Emperor, who sat nearby, his scales still glinting in the late sun. He had healed enough to lift his head, and his eyes, golden and deep, followed her every movement. She did not fear him anymore. In fact, she felt a strange comfort. He was powerful, yes, stronger than any being she had seen, yet he had allowed himself to be guided by her care and courage. The thought made her chest swell with pride, though she did not say it aloud. When the villagers gathered, still whispering about the fight, Alara spoke first. "This dragon," she said, pointing toward him, "is not just a creature of strength. He is wise, brave, and yes, an emperor. But he is also kind. And he is our friend." The villagers looked shocked. To think a human could know and speak for a dragon emperor was almost unbelievable. The Emperor stepped forward, his massive form towering above them all. His wings, now healed, shimmered in the sunlight. He bowed his great head slightly toward Alara. His voice rumbled, low and full of power, yet gentle. "I am Varyan, Emperor of the Hidden Dragon Realms," he said. "You saved me when I was weak. You stood with me when others would have run. Because of your courage, my enemies have fallen back, and my strength is restored." The villagers gasped. Even the bravest among them could not imagine such a revelation. Some fell to their knees, not in fear but in respect. They realized that a single human nurse had healed and protected a being who ruled dragons. One man whispered, "We have been touched by greatness." Alara stepped closer to Varyan, her hand resting on the smooth scales of his neck. "I did what I had to," she said softly. "I only followed my heart. That's all." He lowered his massive head, brushing it gently against her shoulder. She felt the weight of his acknowledgement, a silent promise that she had changed more than one life. Varyan turned to the villagers. "These people," he said, "have more courage than some dragons I have known. They fight not for power but for what is right. That is a lesson I will carry to my empire." The humans stared in wonder. Even those who had doubted Alara now nodded, realizing that human strength was not measured in size or claws, but in heart and mind. Alara realized then that the Emperor's trust was complete. He had revealed himself fully, yet he did not show dominance or fear. Instead he recognized the human's worth. This revelation shifted something in her chest, a quiet pride in what humanity could achieve. If humans could gain the respect of a dragon emperor, then courage and kindness truly had no limits. The Emperor stretched his wings slowly, testing their strength. The air stirred, carrying the scent of smoke and rain. He looked down at the village, then back at Alara. "I have ruled dragons for centuries," he said, "and I have seen power, cruelty, and fear. Yet in all that time, no creature has taught me as much as this human beside me. You have shown that strength is not in size or teeth, but in trust, courage, and compassion." Alara smiled faintly, feeling a warmth she had not expected. "Then maybe we humans are not as small as we think," she said. The Emperor's golden eyes glimmered with amusement. "Perhaps not," he agreed. "Perhaps not." The villagers gathered closer, asking questions, but Varyan raised a claw. "Patience," he said. "There is much to explain. But first, know this: humans and dragons can stand together. Together, we can face challenges that neither could handle alone." His words carried weight. Even the smallest villagers felt it. Even the frightened children looked at him in awe. Alara realized how much this moment meant. She had healed a dragon, yes. She had saved him from his injuries. But more than that, she had earned his trust, his respect, and the respect of an entire empire hidden in the mountains. And in doing so, she had proven that human courage could change the world. Varyan lowered himself so that his massive head touched the earth near her. "I will return to my empire soon," he said. "But I will bring your story with me. I will show my people that humans can be allies, teachers, and friends." His words echoed over the clearing, carrying promise and honor. Alara felt the villagers' eyes on her, but she looked only at the dragon. "Will you come back?" she asked. "I will," he rumbled. "But remember this: courage is not in waiting for danger. It is in facing it even when you are afraid. You and your people have shown me that." The villagers cheered softly, unsure at first, then louder as the power of the moment sank in. They had stood beside a human, and a dragon emperor had recognized it. The balance of fear and respect shifted that day. Humans were no longer just small creatures hiding in forests and villages. They could be teachers, allies, heroes. Alara stepped forward once more. "I will not forget this," she said to the Emperor. "And I will not forget what we have done together." Varyan nodded, a slow, deliberate motion that carried more meaning than words. "Nor will I forget," he said. "You have shown me that even an emperor can learn from those he might think weaker than himself." The sun set, casting golden light across the village and the dragon's glimmering scales. Alara stood beside him, feeling the bond that had grown over days of care, trust, and courage. In that moment, humans and dragons were not enemies, not even strangers. They were allies, connected by trust and the lessons of bravery. The hidden emperor had been revealed. But more importantly, the humans had been seen, respected, and valued. The village would tell this story for generations, of a small nurse who healed a dragon, and of a dragon emperor who learned that courage and kindness could come in the smallest of forms. Alara looked up at Varyan, and he lowered his head, brushing her shoulder gently once more. She smiled, understanding that their partnership was only beginning. Together they had changed the balance of their world, proving that trust and courage could conquer even the greatest power. And in that quiet moment, the bond between human and emperor grew unbreakable, a bridge between two very different worlds.